Hi, I'm doing some meal prep today, and I'm really making one of those super easy freezer meals because I've had a lot of people ask for a few more freezer meals because they're so easy. And today I'm going to make a green chicken chili, super easy, and it only has a few ingredients, which is great, but it's also a really flexible recipe. There's a lot of alternative ways to make this that I'll tell you about. But let's get started. It's just a super easy recipe. So what I have, a large green bell pepper, and I have this is a large jalapeno. So I just have one, but you might need two or three. Depends on the heat level that you like. I'm only going to use half of this onion. So I already cut it in half. I have a pretty generous handful of cilantro. If you're not a cilantro eater, you can always use some chopped up celery leaves to freshen up the recipe instead. But I love the cilantro personally. I'm going to use one or two garlic cloves. I've got a couple of scallions here for additional green. I have pinto beans. Another kind of bean that you can use in this green chili are cannellini beans. Either one come in a can. But I made sure to buy beans that only had beans and it had a tiny bit of salt in it. Nothing else. They're not processed. They're not pre-flavored. And then I have Butcher Box chicken tenders. These come actually 3 sections when you get them in the order. So I used one for a meal already, and I'm just using 2 sections. So it's going to be approximately 2 pounds of chicken tenders. Don't worry about the quantity. You can really modify this recipe. You could have made it with the whole package with 3 pounds. You just get more back. Or if you want, you could even make a vegetarian version of this with more beans and more vegetables. I've actually added zucchini to this recipe, so it's really flexible. Now I have green tomatillo sauce. My recipe online has you chopping up fresh tomatillos, and I didn't have a chance to get to the farmer's market, so I'm using my green salsa. The best way to get salsa of any kind that doesn't have added sugar or chemicals and a bunch of stuff you don't want is to make your own. And soon I'll be going to the farmer's market to grab some more tomatillos, and I'll show you how to make this sauce because it's super easy and then you have plenty. So this is a pint, or basically 2 cups. But you can also use a jarred tomatillo sauce if you can find one that doesn't have additives that you don't want. Okay, so we have that. And very important to the crock pot freezer meal is a bowl. I want to pick a bowl that is slightly smaller than the inside of my crock pot because we're going to freeze this. And if you freeze a bag of ingredients bigger than the inside of your crock pot, then come, I think Thursday, when I go to make this in the morning, it won't fit in the crock pot. Next thing, if you're using a metal bowl, which I am, I'm going to put a cloth inside. Because when I put my crock pot plastic liner in here and fill it with ingredients and freeze this in the bowl, it can stick to the metal. So that's why I like to have the cloth here. And what I'm going to do is freeze all of this, and tomorrow I can get my bowl back because it'll be frozen solid. Okay, so what I'm going to do, got a lot on the counter, but I'll move it around. Just grab one of these disposable bags. I mean, I'm not a big user of disposable items, but when it comes to crock pot liners, I'm a big fan for these freezer meals because basically I'm doing all the assembly today, and then I'm just going to cook this meal later in the week. So I get the advantage of all that good smell of something cooking in the crock pot all day without having to get up extra early to fix everything. So all I've done is line this bowl, and we're just going to start filling it with all these ingredients, and that's all I'm going to do. All right, so I'll start with the chicken, just if for no other reason to make room on the cutting board, but you can put these ingredients in here in any order you want, okay? It's all going in the same place. So I just literally dumped the chicken in there, and let me cut this last one. So again, if you just want to make a little bit, you can just use one of these sections. That's what's nice, because maybe you want to use these chicken tenders for something else. And if it's not tenders that you have, if it's breast pieces, just cut them up a little bit, but I like pieces about this big so it doesn't break down too much. I like a chunky chili. Now I defrosted this in a sink of cold water, just enough to be able to get it out of the package, because after all, I'm going to freeze this again. So I don't have to defrost it completely. So I have the chicken in there. And just to get some more things out of the way, let's add the salsa. And it's just, again, 2 cups or a pint. If you're canning it, you have it that way. And since I have the beans ready, I'll throw those in the bowl. All right. So now a few more things to prepare. So bowl out of the way. I just have a couple of seasonings, some cumin and some coriander, because I'm going to get plenty of flavor with this jalapeno, the garlic, the pepper, the onions, cilantro. So I'm not adding a whole lot more, but I am going to add a good generous couple teaspoons of this cumin. And if you're nervous about just pouring, use a measure, but I believe I've got that about close, and about a teaspoon of coriander. And you can leave that out if you don't have it. Perfectly fine. In fact, this is, again, one of those recipes that you can season almost any way you like, and it'll come out really good. Okay, I'm going to add a pinch of salt. I can add more later when it's actually cooking. And let's clear off the cutting board so we don't have too much going on. Okay, so I have a crown of garlic here. I'm going to take 2 cloves. I think that should be a good amount for this chili. I really wanted to have a lot of flavor. And I'm just going to cut this tough end off the end and give that a whack so I can get the skin off easily. See, this paper skin will come right off if you just give it a smash with a knife. Don't have to get fussy about that. And I'm just going to give it a rough chop. This is going to cook for a long time in the slow cooker, so this will break down, but I can already smell it. It smells great. It's going to give it some of the great chili flavor. It would be good if you're having this chili later in the week to buy a green avocado today, so that by the day you're serving it, you have a ripe avocado, because it's really delicious garnished with some fresh avocado and cilantro, or even some additional chopped onion. That's totally optional, but I love to serve it that way. So if you're having this meal in a couple of days, be sure to get a avocado that's going to be ready in a few days. You know, you kind of have to buy your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday avocados, some that are almost ripe, some that need some time. And as they get fully ripened, you can just stick them in the refrigerator and they kind of hold there. So think ahead when you're buying the avocados. If you buy them all ripe, it's kind of too much, unless you're making a pot of guacamole or something. But if you need them with your meals, get a few greener ones and they'll ripen up. So I'm just rough chopping the bell pepper. By the way, you can make this really pretty, adding some yellow bell pepper along with the green bell pepper. But since I said it was a green chicken chili, I'm sticking to all the green stuff here. Some people say they don't like the green peppers because they're not so sweet, but honestly, cooked, they change. So if you're not real crazy about them raw, you'll find that once this is cooked, it brings out a nice flavor. Also, if you just kind of eat them, after a while you get used to them and they don't taste so bitter. I've found that to be true. All right, like I said, I only need half this onion. So I already halved it. I'm going to cut off the part with the stem, just slightly. And I'm going to get rid of the outer peel. Sometimes it comes nice and easy, and sometimes it'll give you trouble. I want to chop up the onion pretty small so that that flavor mixes in. So I'm leaving the root end on, and that's going to hold the onion together. Can you see? Yeah. So I'm just going to make cuts here in the onion, almost all the way down, but I'm going to leave that root end intact. By leaving the root on, it'll hold it together, and you're not sliding all over the cutting board, risking, you know, a little accident. So now I can cut across And don't put your hand on it here like this. That's not a good idea. Keep your fingers on it just to hold it and stay away from the blade. Okay, we got some nice pieces here. And again, it's chili, right? It's not a salad. We don't have to be real picky on how that's chopped up, but we do want to get it cut up pretty small, so that's perfect. Kind of a chunky chili. And I'm getting that in. We're almost done with this meal prep. It's super fast. Now, my cilantro. If I were making a salad, I would take these stems off. And if I'm planning to make soup or something, I may save them. But for the chili, leave the stems. Just chop them up. These have flavor. In fact, just if you don't believe me, cut the stems off and just smell. It has the aroma, it has the flavor. So you can leave those stems on and just cook it in with the chili. It's not like you're going to get like a bite of stem. It'll cook right down. Okay, and again, a rough chop. I really like this chili with a little fresh cilantro when I serve it. So, but I am putting some in to get that flavor as it cooks. Scallions, or you can use the larger, if you have the larger green onion, you could omit the white onion and just use the onion and the stem. I like the mild scallion flavor or green onion flavor. Spring onion, they call it sometimes. They seem to be very much available right now, so that's good. They must be in season. All right, saved my jalapeno for last. I need a small spoon. Let me get that. I saved the jalapeno for last because I'm going to want to wash my hands as soon as I'm through handling it. So I'm just going to cut it in half. Now, unless you want this extremely spicy, you want to remove these seeds. That's where the heat is, or at least the majority of the heat. And I'm just going to cut the end a little bit so I can just scoop them out with a spoon. You want to handle this as little as possible. I'm wearing glasses, but be careful of even the juices spurting up as you work with it. But all I'm doing is just scooping the guts out here. They'll go into the compost. You could probably plant these seeds. But I've got some jalapenos growing. They're just not quite ready. But I'm excited to cook with the homegrown ones. Okay, so for chili, again, we want pretty small pieces of jalapeno, but we don't have to go crazy. So I'm just kind of cutting this in strips first, and then we can go across. That's going to be the easiest way. So this was a gigantic jalapeno. I'm just using one for the amount of chili I have here. I could tell it was a hot one because it had those little lines on it on the outside. That's how you can tell. So I'm just going with the one. But also you can do this recipe with serrano peppers and it comes out really good. Or if you have poblano peppers available, they're not as spicy. And you can substitute poblano peppers instead of those bell peppers. So you have a lot of options with this recipe. Like I said, it really allows you to do everything. All right, so I have everything in the bowl. I happen to have these little bag clips, but you can use a twist tie or whatever you like. You're just gonna wanna get this up. Now, I like to kind of blend the ingredients. So here's the trick. You know, normally when you cook something in the crock pot, if it's a chili or a spaghetti sauce, isn't it always so much better the next day? Why is that? Because the flavors had a chance to kind of merge in the refrigerator. So why not merge all your ingredients in advance, and this is going to have that optimal flavor the day you make it. So this is what's going in the freezer, just like this. Tomorrow I'll be able to rescue my bowl and my cloth, and it'll stay in the freezer, and it'll be a perfect size to fit in the crock pot. So then all I'll need to do is pop it in the crock pot in the morning and turn it on and let it roll. Okay, if you're in a hurry, you may need to turn up the heat to high, and that's fine, but slow and low is always nice, and you don't have to worry about it. I usually, if I can, give it a stir after the things have kind of defrosted in the crock pot, all the better, but it'll just cook on its own. And again, top it with some fresh toppings. So there you have it, meal prep done, ready for a later in the week meal. So I hope you'll give this a try and let me know. Post a picture of how yours came out.